to our new series, Living Life, with real people and real stories. This series is a window into the human experience. It's about where we've been more recently, where we are today, but also, and most importantly, where we're going. This is an opportunity for us all to step back, to reassess and redefine how well-being shows up in our lives each and every day. So I hope that you can sit back, you can listen, learn, and connect.
So PD, what is PD?
The Pavelka day, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a long day, it was quite emotional. Lots of great things came out of it, but it was intense.
Yeah.
It's a lot to do in one day.
What was the expectation coming into it?
I didn't really know what to expect, so the hope, I guess, was that I would be able to find some help in terms of how to process what was going on for me at that time, because I'd run the marathon and I'd broken my leg in the process of doing it.
Yeah.
So
You had a boot on,
yes,
didn't you?
yes. So yeah, I had to
Yeah.
wear a boot for 5 months as well. So yeah, it was about processing that, because that was obviously a big moment in life. But when you break something, so you break a bone, a doctor will say to you, well, that will fix, you just need to give it, 2 months, 3 months, whatever. But that's just the break in the bone. It's not everything else that goes with the injury, which for me was quite big, because that at that time and that intensity, that's all that I was doing. So it was how to fix everything else that came with that.
Right.
Or know where to start, or what tools I needed, or where to go in order to find someone to help, because you don't get that generally in terms of the support that you can get.
Right.
So it was about that.
It was about going beyond the physical.
Yeah, and I think for me as well, running had become a big thing.
What was running? What did it represent for you? What was the thing that gravitated you to run?
It's quite profound, but I actually realised that I was always the one at school that was the one that was never picked for teams. I was quite chunky. I was always the one that was last in all the races, like whether that was running or cross country, or, I was just not, that was not my forte in school. So then I took up running in my adult life, and it struck me that one of the reasons that I picked running and I enjoyed it so much is because I didn't need it to be picked for a team. I'd picked my team, and my team was me.
Yeah. Ooh.
So yeah, that's
like
the
that.
wow bit.
I like that. Was that the first time you had come to that realization, or was that something?
This is only something very recently that I realised.
Really?
Yeah. So yeah.
This is after PD day.
Yes.
It wasn't about the marathon then.
It was about the marathon, but in actual terms of so my journey from there to the present day, in appreciating what I'd gone through in terms of the loss, if you like, because I couldn't then run, it was quite significant for me, because I'd suddenly lost my team, or my team was broken, and that was me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to fix it. So yeah, and that kind of ties in. 2 days before the marathon, Max, my horse, passed away, just of old age.
Yeah.
But 2 days before, when you're in that space, suddenly I'd lost this member of my team, if you like,
family,
that I chose, and my family that had been in my life for many, many years,
Yeah.
So that was another loss. So it was just how to deal with those, and it didn't strike me until fairly recently about how significant that was.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you hit that certain point in life where you have that moment where you reflect and you think, oh my God, thank God, right? Thank God,
absolutely.
Thank God those horrible things happened.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you came to that realization.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and it's very much about turning that mindset around, and this is where the 4 elements have helped, because it's just, instead of saying I can't do something, focusing on what you can do.
Yeah.
And of course with the 4 elements, it was about, I was definitely doing a lot of sweating, I was definitely eating right. I probably wasn't thinking a lot about anything other than running the marathon.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really connecting on any great level.
Yeah.
apart from, the bare minimum really, because it just sort of overtook your life. And then some of those elements in the way that I was sort of dealing with those on a daily basis were gone.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So this I can't to I can, what does I can't look like for you? Because it shows up differently for everybody, right?
The real big moment for me with the I can't, and since, so I've done lots of different exercise and realised that I can do lots of other exercise instead of running, which are just as good. And it's just applying the think to that as well in every day. We did a urban mud race in London.
When was this?
This was a couple of years ago, so I
Okay.
did it with my husband, and there were big obstacles. So it wasn't full of mud like this. There were the urban obstacles, so you would have the great big wall to jump over, and then the biggest obstacle for me, with a fear of heights, was the rope climb up and across and down the other side.
Yeah.
That's the size of a 2-storey house. And I looked at that and I said, I can't do that.
Right.
But then, because my husband's been on the journey as well with me, he said, you've just got to take it back to the elements,
Yeah.
and what would Jessie say? And at that moment in time, I wanted to kill him.
Well, I just want to thank him.
But we went up and I climbed up it
Yeah.
and across it. And, there's no way you're going to fall through a net with holes this big. But for someone with a fear of heights, going up that high and across and down, that was very real. It was a very real fear. And I guess what I've learned is that fear isn't something to run away from. It's something to grab hold of and embrace and try and make it work for you.
Yeah, and these things are so transferable too, right? Whenever we get to that moment, we're afraid of heights, we climb the rope, we get to the top of the platform, we look down, and that voice goes off in our head saying, no way, not going to do this, can't do this, bad things are going to happen. How does that experience transfer into other aspects of your life? Or how have they, especially over the last year and a bit, right? We've been living through some insanity.
Yeah.
What other parts of life represent that fear in other ways?
I suppose it's about just having an appreciation and just trying not to project that fear as well.
Yeah.
So in having children and just trying to make sure that you're quite balanced, I guess, and not presenting that fear is an issue. Fear is okay. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to feel vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's about how you deal with that, and just take life in 24-hour chunks, not to overface yourself in worrying about things that might happen.
The net will always catch you.
Yes, that's good. I like that. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, good picture.
And that was pre-COVID.
Yes.
So that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, pre-COVID, yeah, so.
Life changed though.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I changed my job. So I used to work in corporate, and I think it's just driven by seeing how much you can help other people. So my experiences, and if you like connecting with people and how the smallest of changes can help someone. And make such a difference just to their daily life. So that's what I've started doing now. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Was this during COVID?
No, pre. So I'm just at the end now of a 3-year course in nutrition.
I knew this was a thing that you would, you talked about this.
Yeah, so 3 years, it's nearly done.
Cliff, you're going for it.
Yeah, just completely jumped off the cliff.
Wow.
Yeah. So
let me ask you this: what made you want to help people?
I think because I'd been on the receiving end and seen such a massive difference in how I could approach life and what difference it made for me. That inspired me really in terms of, I want to be able to give and keep giving that gift on to people really. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so in relation to things continuously changing, transitioning, you've switched jobs. You've got a kid that's about to go off to university. Life is moving, right? So with all of that, you know yourself pretty well, right?
Yeah.
What do you think you need to be ready for in relation to what we're living through?
I think you just need to be ready to be constantly willing to adapt and change. And I think I was speaking a little bit earlier about, the 4 elements are not static, so you don't sit still. You don't say, well, I'm going to spend 25% of my time on eat, I'm going to spend 25% of my time making sure that I'm tick the sweat box. It's not about that. It's like, some days actually it needs to be 90% on think.
Yeah.
And the rest will be fine and keeping everything in balance. But I think it's about moulding that in terms of how we move forward, and again on a 24-hour basis.
Checking in with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a really
Connecting
good point.
and think, and it's almost like this circle's a bit, movable.
Yeah, it's got to have flexibility.
Yeah.
And I think being able to know what you need in any given moment is really important.
Oh yeah, and I think it's appreciation that other people's circles, if you like, will be different. So what I need to do for me on one day might be different to, with the next person. So an appreciation for the fact that, okay, if I need to spend, the majority of my time looking at this element, the people that I'm with, that might not be the case for them. So it's an appreciation that they are choosing, or they want to, or they need to be supported in that element more at this moment in time. So, yeah.
Right. So some of the things that I noticed, right, like around vulnerability, right? I think we're in a more vulnerable place than we've been in a long time. So what does that even mean to you? What does vulnerability mean to you?
Right now, I think it means allowing yourself that moment to feel less confident or less sure of things that may be happening, maybe a little bit fearful. All that glitters isn't gold, so I think it's the accepting that that's not always the case, and not being afraid of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Just, I think it's the acceptance of that's important.
Yeah. You just have this very calming, relaxed way about you, and as you talk through these things, because I know like how much you've been through, and how much you've transformed, and it's not like there's the physical transformation, but then I think the one that's more exciting is the fact that you're sitting here and you're talking about things in the way that you're talking about them, and so I just think that's such a gift. Like it doesn't have to be big, and it's just like, listen,
it's just really simple stuff.
I got this.
Yeah,
this is,
absolutely. Yeah,
and I think that not only what you just communicated, but I think the way about you is what this is about.
Yeah. Well, thanks to you guys. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Let's go get on a horse.